Okay, now for section 5.1.43, Clarice, John, Dominique, Marco, and Roberto work for a publishing company. The company wants to send 2 employees to a statistics conference. To be fair, the company decides the 2 individuals who get to attend will have their names randomly drawn from a hat. So for part A, we want to be able to determine the sample space of the experiment, and that is list all possible random samples of size n is equal to 2. Now, to find the sample space of the experiment, you want to write out all the possible pairs of employees in a table. The first 2 pairs are shown below, and note that each person is represented by the first letter in their name. So for example, you have C and J, which represents Clarice and John, C and D, which represents Clarice and Dominique. And so continue the process above and find the sample space of the experiment. The sample space is then shown below. So you can see that we have Clarice and John, Clarice, Dominique, Clarice and Marco, or Clarice and Roberto. And then starting with John, you can have John, Dominique, John, Marco, John, and Roberto. Now we've already included John and Clarice in the first part. Then we have Dominique and Marco, and Dominique and Roberto, and then we have Marco and Roberto. So therefore that is our sample space. Now for the second question, part B, it says, what is the probability that John and Marco attend the conference? Now to compute the probability of an event E, we're going to use the classical method because the outcomes are equally likely. And so the event from the question is stating that John and Marco attend the conference. So then the event E is equal to Jm. Well, if you take a look at the sample space Jm, we have 1 Jm in that sample space. So therefore the number of outcomes for John and Marco would be 1. Now, if you take a look at the total of number of outcomes in that sample space, if we add up all of these, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that means we have a total of 10. So therefore, it's the total of 10. So we're going to take the probability would then be the event of John and Marco to attend the conference divided by the total number in the sample space, which becomes 0.1. Now, in part C, the question is asking us, what is the probability that Dominique attends the conference? So we're going to let event E equal Dominique attends the conference. So we're going to find that probability of that event. We're going to use the same equation used in part B. Now, if we come back up to the sample space, how many times do we see Dominique in that sample space? Well, we can see that up here, there is one scenario, there's the second scenario, there's the third scenario, and there's the fourth scenario. So that means that the total number that Dominique can attend the conference is 4. So we have 4, and then we're going to divide by the total number of outcomes, which is 10. So therefore, it would be 0.4. So for part D, what is the probability that Clarice stays home? Well, we're going to let event E represent Clarice staying home, and we want to find the probability of that scenario. So if Clarice stays home, that means that any of her group members or that group will not be selected. So the first 4 is where Clarice is part of that grouping. So we're not going to pick that. So what's possible then is these remaining numbers, which are 6. So we're going to take 6 and then divide it by the total, which is 10, and therefore the probability would be 0.6 or 60%.